I had the craziest day yesterday. Somehow, about $45,000 came into my existence, my awareness, whatever you want to call it. Now, this wasn't in the form of an inheritance or a lump sum of cash somehow, but it came from two different avenues. And the first one I'm going to be talking about is this pension that I knew I had but didn't know much about it. For those of you who have been following my story, you know I stayed in my previous job for 5 years, exactly to the day, so I could be fully vested in my retirement accounts. That was specifically speaking towards my pension, but to be honest, I didn't know how my pension worked. I figured it was tied into my 401k somehow, but I don't know. Turns out that was not true. So yesterday when I was making my final phone call to Fidelity to initiate the transfer of both my 401k and my Roth over to Vanguard that my new employer uses, we wrapped up the phone call and the guy on the phone was like, okay, we got your Roth and your 401k taken care of. What do you want to do about this pension? And I was like, admittedly, which this sounds silly for someone who claims to have their finances under control, I admittedly was kind of avoiding my pension because I figured it meant more paperwork that I would have to do something with it. So I just asked him, I was like, what is this pension all about? What is it doing for me? I have no idea about it. What are my options? So he was like, ooh, hang on, let me get you over to the pension department. So he brought someone in on the line, gave them the backstory. This new woman from the pension department came on the line and was like, okay, so here's the deal. You have about $20,380 sitting in a pension. You are at the age where you qualify for early retirement. And hello, universe, I hear you. So she said, yeah, I could start taking a monthly benefit now, or I could wait till I'm 65 when it's fully matured, take the monthly benefit starting then, or I could just cash it out as a lump sum now to do with whatever I want. Now, hear me out on the ignorance about a pension. Here in the US, pensions are not common anymore. They very much were for my parents' generation, for example, and they were worth it to have company loyalty and stick with the company throughout your career. We don't really have that anymore. Very infrequently do you even see pensions offered, and they're typically a very much stripped down version of what they used to be. This is my first experience with a pension or ever having access to one. So after a conversation with this lady, if I started taking a monthly benefit right now, I would get about $86 a month from my pension for the rest of my life. My other option of waiting until 65, just using compound interest calculations on the Fidelity website, her and I found that if I let my pension mature until I'm 65 years old, it should have an estimated value of $40,077 at that time and provide me with a $268 and change monthly benefit once I'm 65. So the other thing I didn't know was, how is this growing? I said, what interest rate is this growing at, or what's feeding into it? And she said it's currently sitting at a 3.28% interest rate, which is just the federal CD rate set for the year that was established in March, and it will sit at that interest rate until March of 2024 when they reassess for the new federal CD rate. Now, I'm no financial advisor or math whiz, but currently my high yield savings accounts are doing better than that. In my mind, it doesn't really make sense to leave the money sitting in there. So ultimately, I decided to pay the 20% tax and take the payout so I have a down payment for a house hack. So it should be about $16,000 left coming towards me at some point. It's probably going to take a few months to get to me. And now, of course, before I even started this video, I can feel all of the Dave Ramsey disciples getting sweat on their brow and real pissed off at me about this decision. If this decision does not end up financially benefiting me more than $268 a month, then we can all reflect back on this video and call me an idiot. Or you can feel free to do that now if you feel so inclined. It's not going to bother me. Now, I personally am totally comfortable using this money in this way because, number one, I trust myself that I'm going to use the money for my financial gain and not just go blow it. And number two, I feel completely confident that I can use this money to generate a financial gain in my life that benefits me more than $268 a month. And that benefit can start today at age 38 and not have to put off another 27 years of receiving that financial benefit and letting it compound in my life. So here we go, for better or for worse. Subscribe if you're not already to find out how this goes. But that was the first 20,000 that came into my existence yesterday. And now before we move on, let me just say I've never included this pension in my net worth calculation or on any of my financial spreadsheets or projections or anything because I chose to ignore it out of ignorance, which is kind of sad, but also I'd rather ignore money that I do have and not know how much I have, just pretend it doesn't exist, as opposed to doing the opposite and thinking I have more than I actually do. So this pension makes no impact on my net worth other than in the future when I'm able to use it on a house down payment. Now, about the other $25,000 that came into my life yesterday, I'll tell you what, it was a day, you guys, because then after this talk with Fidelity, I went down, checked the mailbox, and opened it up, and here is this check from the U.S. Treasury for $25,150 with a note of federal student loan refund. And now I stared at this check for a solid several minutes, like, what the F is this? Until it finally dawned on me. This is the student loan payment refund I requested. I don't even know how long ago. If it was a year, 2 years, I don't remember. I requested this, you guys, back before there was any kind of decision about student loans, and there was still talk that maybe everyone was just going to get blanket forgiveness. So I was like, if that happens, I'm going to be really mad. So what I did was I requested back the money that I had put towards my loans during the forbearance, and only during the forbearance. This was so long ago, and I mentioned it. I'm guessing it must have been in a Transfer Tuesday video. I maybe mentioned it once and said, hey, I did this just because in case there is blanket forgiveness and I didn't have to pay this, it'd be nice to have the money back. But I must have totally forgot about it. And I never brought it up again because, one, I had no expectation that it would ever happen. And that's because I had paid this money to Fed Loan Servicing, who then relinquished control of any student loans, and I got bumped over to Mohila, which is where my student loans are now. So when I made the request, I had to request a refund from Mohila, even though I had given this $25,000 to my Fed Loan Servicing. But I guess ultimately it didn't matter. It came from the U.S. Treasury. So that's interesting. Now, obviously, my student loan balance that I owe did go back up to $180,000 as opposed to $160,000. So I'm just going to keep this hanging around until the end of forbearance and put it immediately back on my loans. So this is not like extra money that I just suddenly have to work with. No, this is money I've already paid towards my student loan debt, and I will put right back to it. But what's funny is now I can use this money to sit in my high yield savings account for a few more months, or however much longer we have until the forbearance ends, to at least gain me some interest. So that was my $45,000 day. So if you're wondering how I think I'll be able to buy a house and see a $268 a month or greater financial gain from that, since housing usually sets you back in the opposite direction, you can check out this video right here and skip to the third chapter where I talk all about my investment plan and house hacking strategy going forward. Thank you all so much for watching, and again, subscribe if you're not already. Stay tuned and see how all of this pans out on this very long, very mundane journey to financial independence, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.